Hey folks, real quick before I turn things over to Jeff, I want to remind you that our brand new self-paced course, Build a Bot, goes live June 20th. If you have been interested in learning more about how you might get playful with GPTs and building your own, either for your personal or professional use, this is going to set you up to explore that. Now, over in the show notes, you'll learn more about it, but because we really appreciate you being a listener of the show, we're going to offer you a special promo code. It is SSPOD25, all caps. Again, you'll find that in the show notes too, so you can take $25 off our early bird price. Okay, with that, here of course is your favorite, Jeff Udick.
Well, welcome back to the Shifting Schools podcast, where we explore innovative ideas in education. As we continue our mini-series on the transformative role of play, here's a question to start with. When was the last time you let yourself truly play? Or how did it feel? In today's episode, we're excited to have Liz Joy Moore join us to unpack the immense power of play. Liz specializes in experiential training, helping people unlock creativity and connection in work and life. She'll challenge common myths about play, like the idea that it's just for kids. You'll learn about how she uses playful methods to engage educators and therapists in trauma-informed practices, and why she believes professional development should be infused with joy and curiosity. We'll also hear about her journey into this career, starting with her love for anthropology and geography, and how her curiosity eventually led her to become a playful adventure ant in Baltimore. If you're looking for practical strategies to bring more play into your day, listen closely as Liz shares her insights on finding joy and curiosity in even the smallest of things. Before we get to Liz, here's a quick word from today's show sponsor. Discover the power of acknowledgement with Libra. In a world where every staff member's dedication shapes the future, recognizing their efforts becomes our mission. Libra transforms your school into a place where achievements, big and small, are celebrated daily, creating a ripple effect of motivation and pride. Join the recognition revolution with Libra, where every achievement is a cause for celebration. For more information and a free demo, contact me at jeff@shiftingschools.com today. All right, and with that, here is Liz Joy Moore on being curious and playful in our PD practices. All right, welcome back to the Shifting Schools podcast. I'm so excited to continue on our mini series all about play in our lives, play with students, and play in education. Today, I am joined by Liz Joy Moore, we're going to break down some of the ideas that you support around the power of play. Liz, welcome to the podcast. Give listeners a quick background of who you are and what's your take on the power of play.
Oh, big question. Guides my life. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so my background, I now do experiential trainings, but that path began a long time ago. I guess I could share that I grew up in Manhattan in the Northeast of the United States and discovered this career in play a little bit later, more like my mid-20s. After following my heart, which was anthropology and geography. And I still love cultures and people that were different than me. That actually relates a lot to what I do now, and we might get into that. But I spent most of my adult career moving around, just following the job, and spent a lot of my adult life in Vermont. However, now I hail from Baltimore, which is where I get to play the playful adventure aunt. It's a giant pull, but I have come to really love Baltimore.
Awesome. I love that. Let's dig in. We've been asking all of our guests the same frame of questions here. So we'll start with the first question. What is one myth about play that you seek to correct through the work that you do?
I would say that it's not for everyone. I think it is for everyone. And I think a lot of, again, from my perspective, a lot of mistakes people make is that they think it's cheesy and not usable or doable, especially when it comes to adults, which I think in my experience now, having worked with kids and then transitioning to working with adults and professionals, I couldn't argue more the opposite.
Interesting.
That we need it, I guess I shouldn't say even more in, but just as much as children do. And not only to just set that example, but also because I think our internal bodies need it. And I think we respond to it. And I think it's such an essential part of connection to work. And I know we'll probably get into the whys a little bit more, but yeah, I think that myth of that it's cheesy and not, I think that from a fifth grade classroom to Congress could use play and everywhere between. Right? Think about that, right?
And what does that look like for you? Like when you say adults should be playing too, what does adult play look like?
Oh man, that can take on so many forms, right? It depends on, I'm specifically in my work thinking about it within work, right? Within our communities at work, because I think we consider play to be that separate than, or maybe something we had through family or through children. But there's a lot of people that don't have children, right? Or are young adults and focus on the professions. And I think there's a real value in learning how to be playful, not just like play isn't just games. You can learn how to connect with others, relate with others, communicate, learn strategies around mental health, trauma, all through the guise of play. And there's so much data on what it does for our brains and the information we retain when we learn through play, right? Which is an experiential technique. In my background is an experiential education. But I think it has just a really unique ability. And I say unique because I think as we get older, we grow further and further away from it, from our experience of it. And I can tell you, Jeff, in my career so far, there's not a lot of like absolutes in life. We can say 100% this, 100% that. There's absolutes are not very strong in our world. But I can't tell you how many hundreds of teams I've led or communities. And do people resist sometimes? Absolutely. You always get people that are, it most often comes from a place of discomfort. And if given time and watching that 90% of the others are bought in, or maybe it's only 70% at first, the ability to then jump in and connect through play becomes I don't want to say 100%, but it's pretty darn close. And at the ends of my trainings or programs, I, to this day, don't know someone that hasn't bought in. And I think that's pretty powerful.
That's great. I love that. We talk about that. The research around play is very conclusive. And as you were talking about, specifically across all age groups, that a lot of times we think this idea of being play or being playful is a kid thing, but it does have a lot of benefits to us as an adult. What would you like to see more of in the supporting of organizations? And here, focus on education. Where do you think educators or parents, because you even talked a little bit about being role models for kids today, how can educators and parents maybe be role models for kids around this idea of being playful? How do we make that just part of our culture so kids understand how important being playful is in our lives?
Oh gosh, number one, professional development should be playful. The number of times I lead now a lot of trainings for educators and therapists, and they'll go, oh, let's go over here. The kids don't see. And I think, no, let the kids see. They want to see that you look just like them or that you can laugh and be silly just like them. When I first got my start in outdoor education, the challenge guide, I'd never been exposed to a challenge course before, and a ropes course, as people know it. And whenever a teacher would get up there, I would just observe the students like gather around and just the biggest
hooping and hollering.
Yes, the deepest cheering. And it always made me so happy for that dynamic of that classroom, because how often do these kids get to see their teacher, the one that usually leads them, in a position of humility, really, in a
Yes, I
position
love
of
that.
I'm learning, in a position of I'm equal to, I have fears, I am human, right? We all have to learn that eventually about our parents, that they're also people, right?
Yeah, right.
And for students to see their teachers that way is just remarkable. So going back to professional development, I do not lead a single training that does not have play involved. I lead
Mm,
trauma trainings for faculty, and we involve play in order to, these are heavy and big topics, right? But
yeah.
they don't have to be, right?
Mm,
And if and one, if you train with it, it allows people to break down their guard and feel a little more comfort and feel a lot more connection. But also it gives them an example of I can talk to kids in a playful way. I can approach this
mm,
topic in a playful way. This doesn't have to be as heavy and as tough. And not all situations, but a lot more than we
sure.
think. And so I think professional development is one example of what we could be doing, whether in front of children or not. And I have had, I'm sure there's lots of amazing trainings out there, right? But I've had teachers come up and say, in 25 years, this has been the best training I've ever been through. When I ask
Wow.
them what it is, and I'm like, it just felt more comfortable, or it felt more
Mm.
easy, or I wasn't just listening, or I was asked what I thought, or it was a lot around the aspects of play that they're responding to, whether they know it or not. Yeah.
How much of that around play is, and I love you bring this up, this idea of a ropes course. And when we talk being playful,
Mhm.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around or trying to think of how, and of course you're in this, so you can do this better than I can. But this idea of being playful, and you touched on it, is there is part of it that you are vulnerable, but it's like being vulnerable in a safe place because we're having fun, or all of a sudden, and I'm just thinking from an educator, I'm not supposed to be the expert in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's okay to fail a little bit, or it's okay to take a risk and laugh at each other because we're all in a place of playfulness or a place of learning, really. And it's in those places where we do grow and we are taking a risk that we wouldn't usually do. And I like in my head, I got that vision of a ropes course
Mm-hmm.
where people don't do that unless you are in a position where you are supported by others. You feel like you're taking a risk that others are taking risks with you.
Right.
What are some of those other attributes that you see specifically around like this idea of professional development or us as adults being playful together that you see that help to bond teams?
Oh, good question. Yeah, there's a lot of techniques in the facilitation world that help create safe space,
Mm,
and especially if you do what I've done, which I've really realized that experiential ed and trauma informed care actually overlap quite a lot, and they support each other beautifully. And but I think when it comes to just breaking down those barriers and creating connections, yes, you can do techniques where you're having, let's say, two teachers talk together to answer a question, or you're introducing someone else versus yourself, or
mm,
small group conversations versus out. We don't know what people are comfortable with and what people aren't, right? There's not like some
mm,
list written on their arm to
right.
tell me,
So
hey,
true. Yeah.
I'm fine with saying my name and my pronouns, right? Someone
Right.
that might be across someone's comfort zone right there. And so asking, especially towards the beginnings of trainings or activities, in ways to share or contribute that are very low risk. Write something down, of course, optional answering, right? Paired discussions, just one on one. Like I said, introducing others, right? There's a whole bunch of different techniques that we can slowly encourage people to realize that it's a safe space. We don't have that decision making over them. And my job is not to make sure everyone feels safe, which sounds funny. My job is to make sure that the space feels safe. And then the other
Mm,
job
I love
is
that.
for others to then choose to step forward. And if
Mm,
I see or feel or think that something's unsafe, I'm going to address that or change
mm,
something, or if I learn something, right? So I'm also at the very beginning of my trainings watching, and they don't know how much I watch, right? But in my trainings, I talk about how I think really strong facilitators make excellent observers,
mm,
right? I'm a very good follower, and I think that's what's made me a good leader. No joke, but really good observers will be able to pick up on cues, right? That ability to have empathy as well, and then you can begin to read the room. Okay, I watched that. Oh, I noticed someone, like when they were close to someone, they held their own arms. I know not everyone's
mm,
watching, so they're like powering. There's there's some struggle with physical touch, right? And okay, I'll keep that information in my head for the next choice here. So you do have to be able to shift and adjust. And that I saw more with children than I do with adults. It's a little harder to see with adults, but it is observable.
That's great. Librarians, meet MacEnvision, the future of library management. With a student-centered design, MacEnvision's intuitive interface and seamless navigation ensures that your students find the information they need quickly and effortlessly. Discover how MacEnvision can transform your school at macen.com/MacEnvision. Let's talk about ourselves as individuals for a bit. As you are someone who does professional development around play and the power of play in the hands of teams and organizations, what does that look like for you in your own professional life? Like you as an individual, like before we started recording, I told you, it's like my wife said, I got to get it. We're going for a hike tomorrow. Like we're going out, we got to get out in nature. We're just frustrated. And that's one of the things that we do is we just have to get out every once in a while and go do something fun together that we love to do out in nature. What does that look like for you in your profession? How do you, as an individual, how do you make sure you're keeping play just to keep yourself motivated as well?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think it's a true core of who I am, and it's why I'm so successful as an aunt.
I love that.
I have 5 amazing, couldn't have asked for better, 4 nieces and a nephew, and they very much love me, and I very much love them. And it's different for everyone. Let me put it that way, right? A hike for you might be play, for someone else it's not going to be, right? But maybe some kind of craft will be. But I would say you can find your inner play by asking yourself, what are you curious in? Curiosity is a huge aspect of that leads to play, right? Little Sophie, who's 1.5 right now, she's very curious about tiny little bugs.
Okay.
And they delight her, right? So we'll go hiking and she could just stare and she just goes, wow. She like whispers, wow. And they call me Bala and she'll go, Bala, look. And she could just watch the path of this little teeny ant for so long. And to her, that's very playful, or just putting her toes in really cold water, it's like delightful, right? And so I know we're not all 1.5 years old, but I think whatever sparks your curiosity is something that you can find to be playful for you.
I love that. And you're just making me think. I have a nephew and niece as well. And the boy, he's at that stage where every mud puddle is curiosity on just how much it's going to splash when he jumps in it.
It's not playful for you.
Yeah, it's not playful for anybody else that's within the splash zone. But hilarious. There is this, it just makes me think of how often are kids being curious in things like watching a bug or splashing in mud puddles or whatever it happens to be, that we've, as adults, instead of leaning into that and seeing that as a curiosity, we say, stop splashing in the mud puddle.
Right. We have our adult brains on.
Yeah. We don't have this curiosity of understanding that what are all the amazing things that is going through this kid's mind. And they know they're going to get splashed. Right. They know they're going to splash others. But to watch this kid jump into a mud puddle and then stand there like he's never done it before and he just did it in the last mud puddle. Right. But that idea of just curiosity in our minds, and you talked about this beginning, it's for everybody. And allowing yourself those spaces to be curious, I think is what leads to really incredible growth.
Oh, absolutely. It's the best brain
as
development.
Us as humans and inside our teams. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get a lot of delight out of watching other people get excited about, including a 1.5-year-old Sophie, get excited about and be curious in other things. Or I love watching other humans' reactions to things I didn't expect or are a wow factor. My sister-in-law will say, here, take the backpack carrier because otherwise you're going to go so slow. And she's not wrong, because Sophie will get tired and I will have to carry her. But I'm like, the goal for me isn't to go a distance. The goal, I'm just putting Sophie out there and then I'm watching her. When we can walk 100 yards and stop at 8 million things. And that's my joy, is watching her discover the 8 million things, right?
I love that.
And it's such a cool age, but we're at such an age of discovery, right? But that's where her brain ultimately will have the most development and growth, is when it's being stimulated. And is it being stimulated by a fast walk? No. Right? By the tiny, curious ant. Yeah.
That's so great. Mackin Educational Resources has once again partnered with us for our summer mini-series. Thank you to Mackin for continuing to be a partner of the Shifting Schools community. Their new product, Mackin Vision, is the future of library management. Created with your students' need at the forefront, Mackin Vision offers a user-friendly interface that simplifies navigation, making it easy for students to find what they need. This state-of-the-art system includes features like intuitive browsing, secure multi-level access, multimedia searching, and whole school rostering. Additionally, it has a teacher library portal, aggregated dashboard, live analytics, and centralized reporting. Mackin Vision is designed to streamline your school's library operations. Learn more about how Mackin Vision can benefit your school at mackin.com/MackinVision. Schedule your free demonstration and experience the future today. For anyone who might be interested in possibly pursuing a career like yours, what are some other skills do you think are essential to develop for aspiring founders and consultants and people running professional development in this area?
I took a weird path. I'm not sure I wouldn't not recommend it, but I could absolutely speak to the skills. So there's lots of different ways to go about this. I think there's a lot of folks that do similar work to me, maybe not with the guise of as much play and experiential background as I do, that are focused on like organization development, team development, which are big careers now and buzzwords and focuses. But certainly if you wanted to go to school in it, there's recreation, there's actually degrees in experiential ed. Honestly, a degree in social work, which gives you lots of versatility, will at least have you explore the mind, thought, theory, practice, involving play. To be exposed to that, definitely either it's in you or you have to learn about it, and that would be more of an outdoor education or recreation realm, right? So your outdoor schools, your outward bounds, right? There's a lot of play and with the classic name of team building, right? And that I did get exposed to that and quite strongly, so that was helpful. There's tons of workshops. So there's a wonderful one all around the country and an international one called the Association for Experiential Education. And there's regional workshops. There's also an international one hosted every year. And they have a wide variety from topics on brain development to just straight up games that those in the field will call, having like in your back pocket or adding to your bag of tricks, if you will. And so I definitely got more started in that realm, and that helped give me the framework of the art of asking a good question, right? The art and practice of observing, right? I know that I didn't ever think I wanted to be a teacher. I certainly didn't want to be a leader. I don't love eyes on me. I grew into it through loving what play did for the brains of children, right? Like I can pinpoint the moment that I thought this career was interesting, right? The moment something happened to a fifth grader in front of me by me asking a good question that I didn't even know was a good question, to a silly game that I didn't know wasn't silly. And all of a sudden I was like, what is this? This is super, I can't believe she just learned how to listen from a game. Like what? And if her teacher or parent were here, like, they could use this. Hey, remember that moment that you learned this here? I need you to listen again because so-and-so is saying this. And because she had felt that, I focus a lot on learning through giving people experiences where they feel that quality. They feel empowerment. They feel what it's like to be free, or they feel what it's like to have autonomy. And then you can bring back the experience, right? And talk about it because they've noticed it through their body, right?
Right.
It's like a form of body-based practice, really, play. I don't know if that answered your question.
I love that, though. No, I love that. I think that's great. What's one piece of advice you have for listeners looking to better embed play in their day-to-day lives? Ooh, I love that question. I think we can all be a little more playful. How do we embed that in our lives? I love that.
Oh man, if everyone did on the planet, can you imagine? It'd be amazing. I think I would go back to the curious question, because right now people are exhausted. Even embedding 5 minutes of meditation is very difficult for folks that even do and practice meditation. So I'd say look at your. I actually use a lot of mindfulness techniques that I would call playful, but Some folks might go to, okay, great, I want to do this now. Let me just find people to play with, however that looks like for them. I
Mhm.
would say if you want to just add a little more playfulness into your body, into your heart, and into your spirit, look at your daily routine. Don't change anything, but maybe add a little quality, right? So
Mm.
if you're a big coffee drinker, I'm going to make this up, maybe look outside and look for all the signs of life you can find within 10 seconds. Okay, oh, I see a bird. This leaf, and look at the qualities of those things. Or close your eyes. So this, again, totally mindfulness techniques.
Sure.
Close your eyes and notice all the sounds you can, right, within the span
Mm.
of 30 seconds. Or if you want to do longer, wonderful. Then you're practicing meditation, really.
Yeah.
Go for a walk and see if you can find all the colors of the rainbow. My nieces and I, just to get them to eat healthier, but don't tell them, I will say, oh, okay, let's eat all the colors of the rainbow that isn't candy.
Yeah.
And so they're like,
I
oh,
love that.
we need something blue violet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we need
Yeah.
something like, oh, great with that. And we don't always get all the colors, but we get pretty close to it. And then it's a pretty darn healthy meal. Just like inviting things you already do, but in a little playful manner, right? Which is
I love
really
that.
a form of mindfulness and is so incredibly, and there's so much data, right? So incredibly good for your brain, right?
I love
Because
that.
you're practicing essentially focusing on one thing for at least 30 seconds. Sam Harris will
Yeah.
talk about, who's a podcaster and a wonderful mindfulness teacher. He'll talk about how if you can focus on the same thing for 30 seconds, you'll find it's very difficult because other thoughts will pop in. And that
For
should tell
sure.
us something. And it's a little scary,
It is a
you
little
know?
scary. Yeah.
But I think when something pulls you in, and I do think it plays in our human nature, pulls you in, inviting something you normally do in a playful way, that absolutely can lead towards more focus and a more sense of just well-being in your brain and
Yeah.
body.
I love that. And I just love what I'm taking away from this episode is just be curious. Be curious about your surroundings. Be curious about what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Just be curious about things in your life. And if you need to find, and I love what you said, you don't have to make big, it's not like big parts of your routine that you have to upend to make this happen. But there's all these small little ways, like even just drinking a cup of coffee and trying to be still for 30 seconds and be curious about your surroundings, about what I think is huge as well. I think one of the things that I love that my wife and I do, and it just made me think about this, is because we do so much hiking and we do camping and we're off the grid a lot, is it's interesting how many questions we will come up with that we have to hang on to the question. We're so used to living in a world where as soon as you have a question, somebody pulls out their phone and says, hey, this platform, or hey, that platform. And we just get the questions. Like you just Google it. And one of the things I love is we now, whenever we're out camping or we're out hiking, we have a million questions about, I don't know, this tree and that bird and whatever else is out there. And you have to sit with the question for hours or days before you get back. And so we've started where we will, like, because we usually have our phones with us, we will start making a list of the questions that you have. This idea of being curious, but you have to sit with the curiosity. You have to sit with the not knowing in the moment exactly what plant that is. And you have to be okay with it. And of course, we're brainstorming the entire time of what's going on. But just this idea of sitting in the unknown is something I don't think we're good at. Not anymore anyway.
Not anymore.
Because we're so used to just being able to pick up your phone, or you take a picture of it. Even now, you take a picture of it and Google tells you what the plant is. And you can't do that when you don't have data. And so you have to sit in your curiosity.
Right.
And I think that's just such an interesting place. I was just thinking about that when you're just take a cup of coffee and how many sounds do you hear, and being curious about the different sounds you hear and what's making those sounds and where are those sounds coming from, and what am I going to do about the dishwasher that's making that clunking sound? Because your brain, that's where your brain will want to go, instead of just being curious and sitting in that curiosity. I think is so powerful.
Totally. And think about it, what they must have used to do, right? They looked at the plant, they probably, I don't know, cracked the leaf, smelled it, felt the texture, maybe on their skin, maybe on their tongue. No, don't do that, everybody.
Yeah.
Looked at the roots, looked at the leaf structure. They were great observers. We were great observers, and we had that. And I think a lot of the topics, like this great topic that you're bringing up, didn't used to be such a big topic.
So true.
I think I watched something recently that's talking about how 2013 was the kind of the great year of so much shift when it comes to technology and how we are choosing to be in our day to day. And I saw another great article where there's some schools that are now banning technology in the school and what that transition's been like. And I think in order to just preserve a lot of what we need to stay healthy, we're going to have to make some changes. And again, not eliminating technology is wonderful, and we're using it right now. And it's more, we're going to have to figure out other ways of making sure we get what we need to fill our daily lives with such joy.
I love that. Thank you for spending time talking about this with me. I just love it. Liz, if people want to reach out to you and want to learn more about the work you do, or want to bounce some ideas off of you, or want to bring you into their school, where's a good place for them to go?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Liz Joy Moore. You'll see right there connected to that is my company, which is called Power Play Project. And I am on Instagram. I'm not as good at the socials, I'll be honest. I post every once in a while. I've also, some of my work led to a full-time job for a little bit where one of my clients was like, you could do both of these things. And I was like, oh, we'll give this a shot. And it didn't work out so much, but it was great for a couple of years. But so right now I am on Instagram, and the @ symbol is obviously, for those, I apologize for those that understand Instagram better, but is Our Well of Being, which you'll see Power Play Project right there as soon as you, always open to a chat.
Awesome. And we will make sure that links to both of those and your bio and everything is in the show notes. Feel free, if you're listening to this on any podcasting platform, you should be able to go to the show notes of this episode and be able to get those links directly back to Liz's LinkedIn and her Instagram. Liz, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. My takeaway is just be more curious.
That's my hashtag, stay curious.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, you, Jeff.
Thanks so much.